Representing Bauchi, Central Bauchi State. Mr. President, with all due respect, this is the most important issue across this country. And I crave the diligence of the Senate President to allow us discuss this matter sufficiently enough. You know, Mr. President, this is not a political matter at all. This affects every one of us. And two things, Mr. President. If you see the trends of the security attacks against our armed forces and sufficiently targeting the very best of our military personnel and other security heads, and more often than not, the trend has shifted from just attacking anybody. If that happens, and we think action has been taken, and I said action has not been taken, and this is not just the work of the President and Commander-in-Chief. Mr. President, this is our responsibility. The National Assembly and the Senate in particular must call all those that are involved, whether or not sufficient ammunition have been provided, whether or not sufficient funds have been provided. Mr. President, we cannot continue to think because we are in Abuja and therefore this thing does not affect us. It has affected us. Finally, sir, since you say we are running out of time, one of the things that we must do, and I want us to take this in very, very serious, is either to suspend all political activities across this country, or look at the frontline states of Borno, of Plateau, of Bauchi, of Benue, of Niger, of Sokoto, of Kebbi, and part of Kano, and suspend all political activities until we are sufficiently settled that these security issues we are dealing with, we are not dealing with these security issues at all. And I'm not blaming anybody. I am saying we are not doing it. We cannot every time come here and lament. Mr. President, the Major General that was killed, a refined officer that was just posted from Pakistan back to Nigeria.
Thank you.
And he was just slaughtered.
Thank you,
and we're just looking, a Major General, a Colonel, a Brigadier General, a Captain, and that has become continuous this thing. I think.
Thank you. Your time is off.
I think we're not doing enough, and we must do sufficiently enough to tell Nigerians we are the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you.
The Senate, my colleagues, I'm Senator Dicket Plang. I represent Plateau Central. I rise to join in supporting and expressing my concern for the motion raised by Senator Mongono and ably supported by the senators from Maiduguri or Borno State. Mr. President of the Senate, it is very, very true that the attack on the military is creating exceptional fear in the minds of Nigerians. If a general is killed, army officers are killed, talk less of vigilante. This is a threat and fear in the minds of Nigerians. I must commend Mr. President too for sharp responses to such events that have taken place. This is not just in Borno. On the 13th of March, on a Friday around 5 p.m., a captain was killed in Kanam. 3 military officers were killed. 8 vigilantes were ambushed and killed around 4 p.m. At the moment...
You have 1 second remaining.
Yes, sir.
1 second.
Yes, sir. A moment, a student of the University of Jos is suffering elsewhere. I therefore support this motion and say that the part of equipment may more personnel be recruited.
Your time is off.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, and may God be with us.
Thank you, Mr. President.
I am Senator Alindume, representing Borno South.
Mr. President, the Chief Whip has said it all, and the motion also confirms what we are going through in the Northeast. What is happening in the Northeast, particularly Borno, is being felt everywhere, in the North Central, in the Northwest. And Mr. President, I've said it before, that the re-insurgence of insurgency must be addressed squarely. The Nigerian army and the federal government is doing all it can. But it is not over until it is completely over. The president has gone ahead to declare state of emergency on security. And efforts are being made to address the situation. But you can see the result. Up initio, when the government declared a state of emergency and the president gave a marching order, the Nigerian Armed Forces, Air Force, and in fact, the support we are getting outside, swung into action. But the problem we had, or we are even having now, is that unless this problem is addressed holistically, consistently, until it is over, the insurgents have a way to reassemble themselves and engage our military. The arm or the commanders of the Nigerian army were deliberately targeted after the attack that happened in the northern Borno, where in the Timbuktu Square, a triangle, where the Nigerian army took over and killed so many of their commanders. The problem we had in all the locations, including the general that we lost, was because they didn't have adequate equipment, ammunition, and of course, motivation. But now that measures are being taken, we hope that these measures will be accelerated. And lastly, Mr. President, you are aware, in my local government, 416 women, children, and elderly, as I speak to you, are in captivity with the Boko Haram. Yesterday, or day before yesterday, they issued a threat that if nothing is being done, that they will disperse them and will never find them again. So we still call on this National Assembly, the presidency, to take action so that this particular issue will be addressed. And I want to call on our colleagues to please show concern and support this motion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We don't have more time. I'll call on plan. You have 1 minute, then Lingy will add up 1 minute. Please.
Thank you very much.
President, my name is Mohamed Tahir Mwanguno. I represent Borno North Senatorial District. Mr. President, distinguished senators, I am craving for the indulgence of the Senate to invoke Order 41 and 51 to introduce a matter of urgent public importance as it concerns the urgent need to curb attacks on military formations by Boko Haram insurgents in Borno State, whereby a lot of our brilliant military officers and soldiers have paid the supreme price in the cause of defending the territorial integrity of this country. Mr. President, distinguished senators, I submit and crave for your indulgence to allow me take this motion pursuant to Order 41 and 51.
Yes, the Chief Whip approached the chair yesterday and requested to indulge the Senate so that he can bring forward the motion that he has just mentioned, which he has just summarized, in respect of our gallant soldiers who lost their life recently in a battle, unfortunate battle in his constituency in Borno State. Is it the view of the Senate that should be allowed to bring forward this motion? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. You may proceed.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, thank you for the indulgence. Order, please.
You can invite someone else to join you. You can invite someone else to join you.
Yes. Sergeant Adams, bring the copies. Mr. President, we are waiting for the copies to be circulated. The copies we are waiting for the copies to be circulated.
You can read now while it's being circulated.
Okay. Yeah. The copies are circulated. I can now proceed. Mr. President, this motion was co-sponsored by my two distinguished colleagues from Borno State, Senator Mohamed Ali Ndume, representing Borno South, and Senator Kakasho Lawan, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, representing Borno Central. The motion reads thus: the Senate notes with deep concern the recent attacks on military formation leading to casualties among troops, including Brigadier General Usaini Braimo, Colonel Mohamed Isaya, Captain A.M. Ismat, Lieutenant Kelvin Pestuns, and 13 other soldiers. Aware that these recurring attacks on Monguno, a strategic garrison town, and Benishek, a key town along Damaturu-Maiduguri Highway, demonstrate a deliberate attempt by insurgents to undermine military operations and disrupt humanitarian and commercial access routes. Also aware that the Nigerian armed forces have continued to make immense sacrifice in the fight against insurgency, with several gallant officers and men paying the supreme price in these recent attacks in defense of the territorial integrity of this country. Worried that the resurgence of attacks on both military bases and civilian communities erodes gains already recorded in counter-insurgency operations and poses grave threats to national security, food security, and resettlement of IDPs in Borno State and the country as a whole. Mindful that the protection of innocent civilians remains a fundamental obligation under national and international humanitarian law and is essential for maintaining public trust and cooperation in the fight against insurgency. The primacy of governance is to protect the lives and property of the people. That is the only essence of governance, and that is the social contract with which the people have entered into with government, is to protect their lives and property. Accordingly, resolves to strongly condemn continued Boko Haram attacks on military formations in Borno, communities, and military formations. Observe a minute of silence in honor of all fallen military personnel and civilians in the course of this fight. Call on the Chief of Defense Staff and Service Chiefs to conduct a comprehensive operational and logistic audit of the circumstances surrounding the attacks on military formations in Benishek and Monguno, including an assessment of equipment adequacy and rules of engagement, and to address identified gaps. Urge armed forces to strengthen adherence to rules of engagement and international humanitarian law, ensure adequate training on civilian protection, and thoroughly investigate any allegation of civilian harm during military operations with a view to ensuring accountability and preventing recurrence. This prayer was made against the backdrop of the fact that as a result of the incident, there are some reprisal attacks on civilians. So there is need for the military to also conduct proper investigation, identify the culprits, so that innocent civilians do not suffer for the fault of people that perpetrate nefarious activities in the community. And also strengthen the military-civil relationship so that the community will have confidence in the military. Also urge the local communities to cooperate with the military by giving them information and intelligence about the nefarious activities of the insurgents. There is a need for absolute cooperation from the local communities to give verifiable and actionable intelligence and information to the military to act swiftly with a view to nipping their nefarious activities in the bud. Further urge the Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, NEMA, and the Northeast Development Commission to provide urgent humanitarian relief to displaced persons and families of victims in Benishek, Monguno, and surrounding communities, including those affected by insurgent attacks and any unintended consequences of military operations. Civilians have got casualties in the course of this fight and in the course of the reprisal attack. So there is a need for NEMA to intervene with a view to giving them succor in their lives. And then finally, commend the officers and men of Operation Hardin Kai for their gallantry and urge the federal government to prioritize their welfare, adequate equipment, and combat motivation. Thank you. I so submit.
Senator Kakasha Olawan, SAN, may second the motion.